All right, here we go. Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, Baylor sideline reporter for Baylor Radio on Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. Ricky, you were at the game in Stillwater. Oklahoma State punched and bloodied Baylor early. There was opportunities, though, to win that game. What are a couple of things besides starting better that Baylor, in your opinion, must do on Saturday?
Well, Smokey, you're right. It's 14-0 at the half, and I think maybe just the worst half of football the Bears have played this year. I just don't think they were very effective for a lot of reasons. I think the difference may be that you're going to see some shots downfield and maybe see them early. This is just me, but you've got Tyquan Thornton, several guys out there that can get past these guys with the play action, and I think you're going to have to do some of that to get these guys out of running 7 or 8 in the box, because, man, they stuffed our run in the first half completely. And then we opened it up some in the second half. But I think you got to get it to the guys outside. They're going to be in man press coverage. And I know they used to tell us if they're man press, you better beat it. So I think they can put that on these receivers, and I think they can do it. I think either one of these quarterbacks, whoever it is, can deliver the ball. And I just think if you could hit one of those early, awesome. But even if you don't, if they know you're going to try it, that will change the way they play you defensively.
Ricky, both these teams are different in ways since they played each other. You know, Spencer Sanders hasn't had a turnover event like that, like he did against Baylor, where he has 3 interceptions. Of course, Baylor didn't capitalize on them. Baylor has maybe kind of asserted their dominance at times where they almost didn't know what kind of superpowers they had in that game. How different do you see these teams being overall since that first meeting?
Well, I thought Spencer Sanders maybe was the difference in the game for Oklahoma State last week. I thought he played really good football. He had the huge touchdown run when they really needed it. What was that? Probably over 40 yards, maybe 50. He just outran their secondary. He hasn't been throwing interceptions. I think part of what we did in that game is I thought we really, really did a good job of disguising coverages, and I think it had him confused at times, and I think that's probably what they'll try again. But as we've seen Oklahoma State since that point, I think the difference in them is Spencer Sanders is not turning the ball over. Their defense, just like it's always been, it's really good. And I'm telling you, that front 7 of theirs is as good as anybody we've played or will play this year. And for the Bears, conversely, I think they figured out how to run the football against really good fronts. They've done it in the games beyond that. They did it against Oklahoma. Had 295 yards rushing against a really good defensive football team. Bohannon was over 100. Abram Smith was over 100. So I think both these teams have changed. But I don't know. I just think that they match up pretty well against each other, and I think this is going to be a dang good football game.
Ricky, what did you think of the way Blake Shapen played in his first start?
Craig, I thought he played really well. I mean, there's a couple of times, and I think you heard Aranda say it, that I was saying, oh, my gosh, when he let go of it, and then it ended up being, oh, that was a great throw. So,
yeah.
You know, the kid's fearless, and that can be really good, and sometimes it's not. But I had rather have, if I've got a quarterback in that situation and he's not played a lot, I would much prefer one that is out there slinging the ball, playing quarterback, playing fearless than is passive. Because if he's passive, you know it's not going to work. If he's out there playing with confidence, at least you know you've got the ability to make things work offensively. And this kid's got such a quick release with the football. That's something you can't coach. You either have it or you don't. And he can sling it. He's made some really good throws. And I tell you what, we haven't seen out of him a whole lot yet that he can do. He can run with the football. He's probably faster than Gary. Now, he doesn't weigh 225, and I thought it was lights out for him last week when he got punched over on the Tech sideline. I thought we were done. But I think maybe you see him pull it more this week and maybe early, because there were several occasions I thought where, man, he pulls that football in and there's nobody within 5 yards of him because they were crashing on the corners, because I don't think they thought he was going to keep it. But I think you may see some of that. And Craig, I think that's just like going deep on the press coverage. You do that a couple of times, that changes everything defensively in the way you've got to play, just knowing that, hey, he may not hand that thing to Abram Smith or Treston Ebner. He may keep it.
Ricky Thompson, our guest, he ran the ball somewhat effectively when he needed to, sometimes running for his life against Kansas State. He's got a little bit of that escapability, but in the game was on the line in the fourth quarter, and this was after he almost was killed. He did what looked like a zone read and picked up a big-time first down. And I think you're right. You maybe see that. We saw that more with Gary as well. Your thoughts about the grind, Ricky? I asked Dave Aranda this on Monday. Is it more of a mental grind, the extra game? I know I'm not talking bowl game, or is it a more mental or physical grind to get this last game, this next, where a lot of people are sitting at home wanting to play this week?
You know what? I think it's some of both, but if you really had to measure it, I think it's probably more mental. I just think that it's a game that is not on your schedule. Bowl game's not either, but you kind of expected that bowl or knew that it was going to be there since your sixth win. And this is a game you really didn't know you were going to play till about 10 o'clock Saturday night?
Yeah.
I think that is a mental factor, and I think none of these guys will say that, but I just think in your mind and as a player, when it's a game you weren't expecting, I think there is a difference. And that combined with just the excitement of knowing that Saturday at 2:30 you could be the Big 12 champions, there's some pressure with that. There's a lot of excitement with it, and sometimes the excitement can drain you physically as much as the injury side of it. And I've seen teams, I've played on teams that were so excited and so fired up that they were just absolutely drained after the first quarter. And I know that sounds funny, but I've seen it happen, and you can mentally wear yourself out. So I think that's something that this coaching staff will really be aware of. And if anybody's going to be aware of it, Dave Aranda is, and he'll try to deal with that. But to answer the question, I'd be much more worried about the mental side of it.
Ricky Thompson with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Ricky, Terrell Bernard did not play in the first game. Matt Jones filled in admirably. I mean, he and Dylan Doyle had, I think, 30 tackles combined and like 3 tackles for loss. I mean, they were having to do a whole lot in that first game. Obviously, having Terrell Bernard, an All-American back, makes a difference. But what kind of a difference do you think it makes versus the first time around without him?
Well, you know what? I think the difference it makes is that you can feel comfortable that you'll probably be in the right defense just because this is the guy that makes the calls. He's the guy that gets everybody in the right alignment. He's the guy that everybody looks to before the play. But, the other thing is I think it will just add a notch more confidence in those other 10 guys to play a little harder, to play a little better, knowing they've got that guy in there. I think he is that type leader. I think he shows it in the way he plays. And I just think it's so important to have him back in there. Now, defensively, I thought we played okay against Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. Had a couple of big plays in us, and that last touchdown drive, we let them go in, which ended up being the difference in the game when it was 17-14. But going in there with him, I just think, as a general rule, this defense has to feel so much better because when you have all three of those guys in there playing at the same time, then I like my odds when I've got 52-5 and number 2, all 3 of them in there.
Ricky, this is an experienced team, and yes, they're young in certain positions, but they have been in this game before. Now, not a lot of them, but I'd say 15 or 20 names that took a snap in the championship game against Oklahoma. Not much for Bohannon and a few others, but is there anything to that? Does that make any difference at all?
I think it can, but, once it gets started, I don't know that it will. And I say that because this game is going to have a feel of a neutral site with both teams having great crowds. It's not like a road game at all because you're going to have – I know Baylor sold out their allotment, and I know a lot of folks that are going on other sites other than ours to buy tickets. So I think with that, with the crowd there to be behind them and we know how important that is, particularly when you've just seen a team that's gone 7-0 at home. That is so important that our folks are loud. And with that, I just don't see that being a huge factor. I know they're playing for the championship, but once they go out there and you're running a quick post and the ball's heading towards you, you're not thinking much about Big 12. You're thinking about making the catch and making sure I've got my head after I catch it. So I don't think that'll be a big factor, guys.
So, Ricky, when I was up in the press box last week, I was looking down on the sidelines, and I was like, man, the team looks like smaller. It just doesn't seem to be as many guys out there. And I don't know if there was less people or not, but we did learn after the game that obviously the flu bug had been going around, and there were some guys who probably weren't all the way 100%. What was the energy level like last week on the sideline? I mean, that was obviously an ugly game. Weather was just overcast, his early kickoff, all that. What did you kind of see on the energy side of things as far as their performance last week?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was down a little. I think I even sensed that some in the pregame warm-ups. We talked a little bit about that off air with the guys because we're always communicating back and forth about things on the field, what's going on. But I thought they were a little bit quiet in the pregame, and I think maybe that carried over into the game. And those 11 o'clock kickoffs, the more you get, that's just a tough time. And, of course, this week's 11 as well. But we've had enough of those where that shouldn't make a big difference. But whatever it was, I think Coach Aranda said after the game he knew we weren't going to play our A game because it had been that all week in practice. And he was right. I think that carried over. But again, sometimes the sign of a good team is when you can win a game and make the one extra play you need to make to win one when you're not playing very well. And that's certainly one that we wouldn't be having this conversation today if they would have lost it, I tell you. So we'll take the win any way we can get it. And I would be shocked if you don't see a really highly motivated, excited sideline and players on the field this week. I just think it's going to be phenomenal.
Refreshing. You got Oklahoma State. It's been a while for them, and Baylor a couple of years ago, but they've been through the rocks of ups and downs.
Ricky, did you think when you were on the sidelines last year that a year later you'd be covering a Big 12 championship game?
Well, that's a pretty quick answer. No,
yeah.
I sure didn't. I don't think anybody did. I think we would have all been thrilled if you tell me August we're going to be 7-5, go to a bowl game, maybe win that, end up 8-5. I think I would have taken it at that time. Certainly wouldn't take it now though. 10-2, unbelievable by these guys and the performance throughout this year to really be a 10-2 football team. And one throw out of bounds from being 11-1. It's just that good a football team. So absolutely not. I think everybody should be thrilled, and I know we're going to have a big crowd up there Saturday, and I am really fired up about that.
Ricky, thank you, bud. Appreciate it. We'll have you on the week of the bowl game. Ricky Thompson, Baylor sideline for Baylor Radio with us, has been on. J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, does the analyst work with the radio show. The radio broadcast will join us on Friday. Ross Dellinger's going to join us this week. We've got somebody from Georgia.
He hasn't been doing anything lately, has
Alex Suttles. No, I know. We've got a lot of things still to come. Somebody asked about John McClain. He normally with us Tuesday. We were so packed with so much college football. He's going to be on with us. John McClain will be on with us tomorrow. When we come back, Dave Bartoo, well, get ready. He's going to bring his truth serum of what we are and what we have and who we are as far as teams that have a chance, legitimate chances with how the college football playoff standings are set. Dave Bartoo, College Football Matrix, next on Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com.